You need to know what to do with that dough. Let the chef show you. You need to know what to do with that dough.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Knead to Know Pod. I'm your host, Chef Sahira. And in today's episode, I want to talk about customer service. Not just any customer service in the food industry. If you're going out to eat, is it a deal breaker if the customer service is terrible? What if the customer service is great, but the food isn't? So for me, customer service is definitely a deal breaker. I'm going to give you my thought. So let's dive into the key ingredients that make up exceptional customer service in the culinary industry, and let me know if you agree or disagree. The first thing I want to talk about is one of my experiences that I had in a bakery. So I'll make this point quick because not only was the cake not good, the customer service lacked. And the customer service lacked not so much from the staff, but from the owner. The owner was there and was not very friendly at all. But, I tried to support. It was during Black History Month. I know we're a few months past that, but the story remains the same, and I know that I will never go back. So this particular bakery I had to drive to was at least an hour away, and my husband and I got up early one morning, Saturday morning, to make this trek to this bakery. It had received a lot of press, and I was very excited to try this bakery. The owner was there. It was early in the morning. The owner was there, and she just wasn't friendly. Do I expect everyone to be like me? No. So let me just say, when I opened up my shop, I still had a full-time job. I don't really tell everybody that. I didn't want anybody to feel sorry for me that I was so tired and I was coming straight from work, opening up my shop. But I put a smile on my face. I welcomed the guests, said good morning. I got to know my customers, whether it was first-time customers or regular customers. The least you could do is say good morning. She just wasn't friendly. I'll just say that. And just to top it all off, we spent about $85 there in her shop. We bought some pastries. Her pastries were decent. I will say that. Her pastries were decent. And we bought a cake. My husband saw this cake, wanted the cake. It was a heart-shaped cake. So it was around Valentine's Day, and it's also around my anniversary. So he bought that cake. He bought it. What am I going to say? But I'm always open to try people's desserts, pastries, cakes. But what I do know for sure is everybody can't bake a cake. Just because you have it in the shop doesn't mean that it's a good cake. To me, it was about a 6-inch cake, a 2-layer cake. It was a heart-shaped cake. And, we didn't eat it until we got home, obviously. We bought the whole cake. It was $65. I'm not going to say overpriced, but it was overpriced for what they provided. The best thing about the cake, it was decorated nice. It was dry, very, very dry inside. The icing was just the basic icing. So for those of you who don't know, the easiest way to make an icing is cream some butter and powdered sugar, confectioner's sugar together, and you have an icing. And I believe that's all they did. The icing had no flavor. They told me it was a buttercream cake, and it just was dry. I believe the cake must have been sitting for days, because even if it was a day old, it just wasn't edible. I ended up throwing the cake in the garbage. So I did not call because by the time I would call, we paid cash. By the time I would call and you tell me that I can come and get a refund, I didn't waste the gas, right? Going and coming back again. So I wasn't going to do that. But what I can do is never go back. I could tell people, I would tell people of my experience of the place. I won't name the business because people will find out. Good customer service goes a long way. So I might have even tried, I'll give credit where credit is due. The croissants that we purchased were good. The cake was terrible and her attitude sucked. So even if I threw the cake in the garbage, I might have entertained the idea of going back. So when I say her attitude sucked, we were the only 2 people in the store. Not thank you. We just dropped $85 on pastries that I'm going to crap out in by the end of the night. No, thank you. No, just not welcoming. Not welcoming. I picked up on a vibe, so I tried to engage in conversation. She acted like I was bothering her. And maybe I was. But damn it, I don't want you to let me know I'm bothering you. But that's that. So I will not be going back there again. I won't tell the name of the place, but if you are in New York or if you know of a Brooklyn bakery, a black owned bakery, who makes croissants, I'll just leave it at that. Because people will find out. I don't want to put somebody's business out there, and your name will speak for itself. If you look at the reviews on that page, there are a lot of reviews. I actually did not, so maybe shame on me. But talking about customer service, the one thing I will suggest is to look at the reviews. I mean, like I said, shame on me. I definitely look at reviews for everything else, but maybe because I felt like this was a pastry shop, I actually didn't expect to see her making cakes. Just because you know how to make croissants doesn't mean you know how to make a cake. Like I said, the owner wasn't so welcoming, and I didn't expect her to stop everything she was doing. But just like a warm smile would be nice, right? That lets let people know that it's inviting. If you can literally feel a cold space, right? So that's how her place felt. It was a beautiful place, very nice inside. The atmosphere was very nice, but if the energy, I'm getting cold energy, that's one of the things for me. That's my famous line is that's a no for me, dog. So that was that. So that first impression, she'll never get another opportunity to get my $85. When it comes to customer service, you know the saying, you never get a second chance at a first impression. That is oh so true. Oh so true. So first impressions, back to this bakery, are lasting impressions. I'm never going to take a second trip to this particular bakery ever. So that's really, really important. What I find too is that sometimes people have poor customer service because either they weren't trained. I know a business owner who seems to hire anybody off the street, like literally anybody off the street, and it shows. So I think that affects your brand. If you have people who have absolutely no idea of customer service, then that could be why your customer service is lacking, because you have a staff that hasn't been trained. I worked for the New York City Transit Authority for over 25 years, and you had to have good customer service. There were some times, because just because you have good customer service, working with the public is very difficult, and I get that. But it's a little different when the role is shifted. When I work for transit, I am working for someone else. Working for yourself, I just felt so honored when people would come and give me the money, their hard-earned money, to purchase whatever it is I was selling. So I don't understand how people, right, especially that owner, but I'm not gonna keep talking about the owner. When you have employees that work for you, if they feel like it's just a job, and because if they don't have good customer service, guess what? It doesn't affect them, but it affects the owner's bottom line. So I always look at it like that. One thing about good customer service too is that there needs to be clear and effective communication. Have you ever been to a restaurant or dining out someplace and the waiter or waitress didn't know the menu? They couldn't answer any questions. I know when I would put a new menu on an item, I would tell my staff, explain to it what it is, right? That is definitely part of good communication skills, because if the staff doesn't know what's on the menu or can't explain certain items, you run the risk of one of the patrons eating something that maybe they're allergic to, right? So there's so many allergens out there. So you want to make sure that the stuff that's on the menu, if something definitely does contain one of the allergens, like eggs or fish or nuts or wheat, whatever it is, that if the customer asks you, you don't want to say you don't know. So that's a red flag for me as well. But also, if there's stuff on the menu, sometimes some restaurants have way too much stuff on the menu, right? So, if your staff is able to give recommendations on what the customers may like, this all is a part of good customer service. And the one thing I will say is, working with transit, you were trained on customer service, because if you didn't have the best customer service, the public would report you. You had your badge in the window, and guess what? They would take that badge and report you, whether it's true or not, right? They would report you. They would report you. But again, when you're working for yourself, it's just different. So I know as a customer how I would like to be treated. And again, if it definitely for people who have small businesses, even if you're not in the diner experience, I know people who have like hired people as caterers and they had like the worst experience with them. So it's not just like in a brick and mortar, but if you're providing a service, good customer service is for any industry, if you ask me, any industry. But specifically when it comes to food, because you don't know what they're doing with your food back there. If I get a sense of the energy in a space, either, you either suck it up and decide I'm not going there again. I don't recommend going back and forth with the waiter or waitress and they have your food, right? I know of someone who they send everything back. Like anytime they order stuff, something is always going back. Oh, I didn't like this. I didn't like that. So not me, not me, but this is what this person does. Sometimes the customers are the problem. I will say that. Sometimes the customers are the problem. Another thing about good customer service is the timeliness and efficiency. You ever go to a restaurant and or just dining out wherever you are, and you could be sitting there for about 20 minutes. You try to be patient if it's crowded and you're like, okay, maybe they're busy or they're backed up, but all of that comes into play. The one thing I will say is if I'm going to sit and wait, if you're waiting for your food and your food comes out, I like hot food, so I expect my food to come out hot. And not one time, just recently, I went to another Black-owned spot, this time in Jersey. Really nice decor. I've gone there before, and the food was decent. And I think because the customer service was good, that sometimes you don't want to cook, right? Sometimes I don't want to cook, right? I want to go out and be served. So the atmosphere was really nice, but it had been some years since I had gone. So I did look up the menu. Again, I didn't look up the reviews. And the menu had changed slightly. So it was like kind of like upscale Southern cuisine, a little twist on some things, which I appreciated. But not only do I like good customer service, I like good food. And the food just wasn't up to par. It just didn't. The food wasn't satisfying, right? So I wasn't satisfied. On a scale of 1 to 5, I probably would give them a 2.5, maybe 3, because the customer service was nice. One thing that happened was my food came out. I ordered mashed potatoes. I love a good mashed potato, garlic mash specifically. And it came out cold and it had absolutely no garlic flavor in it whatsoever. But the server was really nice. So I didn't make a big deal, but I just took note, never come back here again, because I just wasn't impressed with the food. Just because people know how to cook or you have a restaurant doesn't necessarily mean that the food is going to taste good. I like to go out to eat, not so much for the customer service, for the food. So I like good food. So I was disappointed with that, but the customer service was decent. But again, that's part of customer service too, because people leave reviews. If all the reviews are saying my food came out hot or not hot, if my food came out cold, or when, it took 30 minutes for my food to come out, this is all falls under customer service. And these are things that you have to be mindful of as a entrepreneur or as just a patron, So I'm just giving you some information in my estimation. Even in transit, we would have long lines, and there was a time where you used to have help. I worked in the token booth. There was a time when you would have help. Like during rush hour, they would have people in the booth to help you. Then all of a sudden budget cuts, and then you were the only one working. So if you ever been to like New York City and you're working like 34th Street and wonder why there's only one clerk in the booth, it's because there was budget cuts. And once they see that you can work with all those people by yourself, why would they give you somebody else? But what happened is customers, now you have lines wrapped around a corner. Well, now, you could just swipe and go, but I'm talking about years ago. But that was a problem. Certain stations were known for having long lines. That's part of customer service, but transit didn't care. So another thing about customer service is cleanliness and presentation. Cleanliness and presentation. I don't want to eat at a dirty restaurant. Sometimes I look at food grade reports to see how restaurants, like my favorite restaurants or restaurants in my neighborhood, what kind of food grade they have. If it's not posted on the door or a window here in New York City, it should be. So that's a little red flag for me. But I can look up what food grade some people have. And there's a particular pizza store here in Staten Island, and I don't mind calling this one out, on Jersey Street, that always gets a C rating. One of the things that they stated in their report was they failed on the hygiene, personal hygiene. So how dirty, right? Either your uniform is dirty or your apron or your smock or whatever it is that you're wearing that you would fail at. And I did notice that they did not have the C grade rating on their window. Because honestly, let me know if you're watching this on or listening to this on YouTube. Let me know, would you eat at a restaurant that had a C rating? And what I take offense to is that they continue to have a C rating and they set up in our communities. What I do know for sure is they wouldn't go to either their community or other communities and continue to operate with a C rating. So there's that. So I will never go there. Yeah. So there's that. I look at everything. Do you look at the restrooms? I definitely pay attention to restrooms if it's not too clean. Some places I'm impressed by a clean bathroom. So that says a lot that you pay attention to having somebody keep your bathroom clean. That's important. Actually, my son went to Candy Burris's restaurant, her mother's restaurant. Is it the old lady gang? And I hear a lot of people talk about it. I've never gone. I hear a lot of people talk about it. I will say he said the food was okay and you had to wait a long time. They did have to wait a long time and he wasn't impressed with it. But also, I think the customer service, I can't recall what he gave it, but I felt like he wasn't impressed. But again, long lines, long waiting, not good customer service. And I know his takeaway, it was that I don't have to go back. So really, I guess my question is, would you go back to a restaurant that had poor customer service, but you love the food? Would you go back to a restaurant that the customer service wasn't the greatest? And I just, shout out to the entrepreneurs out there who have these food establishments. Sometimes you might just have to pay to train your staff. Just because you hire somebody, they may not be used to working with the public. I give your girl a call, right? This is what I can do. I can come out and teach your staff. But also one of the other things that is a huge problem for me is I definitely pay attention to the cleanliness, but also who's handling the money. Who's handling? Don't touch my food and the money with the same hand, right? So those are things that I pay attention to. But I think I don't want to say my generation or the younger generation or any generation, because I've seen it just across the board that people don't pay attention to little stuff like that. Working for transit, I use gloves counting the money. I know people who would count that money and be eating chips right after that customer left with the same hand they touched the money, So, it's just something I definitely pay attention to, but a lot of people may not be in tune to it. I am, because this is what I do. I am fanatic about food safety, so I pay attention to it, but other people may not. But when it comes to your business and you want to run a business, you ever go to a place where you ever go to a place and it's all young people and the energy changes. Like if you go in the afternoon, maybe it's the after school staff. But if you go in the morning, it might be maybe the older people working there. And the energy is different, right? But I'm telling you, and it starts from the top. If people see how you run your business, if you don't have good customer service, your staff doesn't have good customer service, it ultimately can affect your business. So let me know, would you go to a business that has good food but poor customer service? To me, the customer service tops the food. I can cook. I'll make my own food. But what I'm not going to do is keep going back to a business because you don't value my money. People pay their hard-earned money to go and purchase from a business. So maybe it's my expectation. Let me know. So now that I've told you about some of my experiences in customer service, that was so. Let me tell you about a really good experience that I had. Just when I think about it, just how different my experiences were. So I'm always interested in trying new eateries, but specifically more Black owned businesses. So I definitely want to put my support around those businesses, seeing that there aren't as many. I guess it was a Sunday afternoon. My husband and I, we went to Harlem Biscuit Company. So that is a Black owned business. Once again, we took about a 45-minute to an hour drive. Well worth it, I will say. So my husband and I, we went to Harlem Biscuit Company, and we actually got there before it opened, and it was just a really good experience. The owner wasn't there, and I actually don't expect to meet the owner most of the times, which is interesting. People would come into my shop and always say, "Is the owner here?" And I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you could just go in and ask for the owner. But nonetheless, the owner was not there. The general manager was there. He was very nice. He took time to talk to us and kind of showed us. My husband and I showed us their kitchen, their setup. So it was just a nice experience. So I asked how often the owner comes in, and he said, well, he's the executive chef. He's just right down the block, which wasn't really right down the block, but down the block, but still uptown at Harlem. The owner is Chef Boots. He's actually the executive chef at the Victoria, which is located in the Renaissance Hotel right uptown next to the Apollo Theater. I should say the infamous Apollo Theater. So I don't get uptown like I used to. It's like being on a whole nother side of the world living in Staten Island. So we were already out. So we took that trip, and I just don't regret it. I'm so glad I took that trip. The food was amazing. I was surprised. The food was really, really good. Even though I had just purchased stuff from the Harlem Biscuit Company, my husband and I stayed for brunch because this is a restaurant. This is not just a fast food place that you can just go and grab stuff. The first of all, the hotel is beautiful. The setup, the dining area was beautiful. So after we ate, I just had something regular, pancakes, potatoes, and actually I didn't have pancakes. I had toast, potatoes, and what do you call it? They made a chicken sausage. So the hash browns, or home fries, I should say. The home fries were really, really good. Yeah, the home fries were really, really good, but the chicken sausage blew me away. So, but nonetheless, so that was really good. And after we ate, I just took a chance and asked, "Is the chef here?" And the lady was like, "Well, let me go check." She did ask like, "What's your name?" So I was like, "Oh, just tell him Chef Sahira." And he came down. I like to think he would have come down anyway if I didn't say Chef Sahira, but very nice, very nice. He took us around the kitchen. Just the energy was so different from my experience at that bakery. So, I shot my shot. I asked him if he would do my podcast. He did, and he showed up, and that's how I snagged that interview. If you haven't already listened, please do so. So, just really, really good conversation that I had with him. So, just a stark contrast from the bakery experience to someone who is running this restaurant and how they still took the time and he said he's up like all day, right? So I'm sure he was tired, but he still took time and showed us around the kitchen. I never should put that footage out, so maybe one day I'll show that. So, but he showed us around the kitchen, showed us around his banquet hall that they have these events in. So totally good experience. So now I want to hear from you guys. Have you ever had a bad customer experience that made you swear off a business forever? I stopped going to a little store around here. I don't know. We call them bodegas, but I don't know if this one was a bodega, but just a little grocery store. I'll call it a little grocery store. And this is years ago. I know that they overpriced the item because the item comes with it already pre-priced on it, and they just kind of took their little pricing gun and put that sticker over it. And I don't know if I said something, but I know I never went back. And I could walk to the store, but I will never go back to that store. So that's just my experience. I do believe that just because you have a business, I think it's your duty to provide good customer service, especially when people are spending their hard-earned money. So guys, lastly, I want to invite you to my new masterclass, Kitchen to Commerce Masterclass. It's a free masterclass taking place on Wednesday, May 14th at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is it standard? Maybe Eastern Time. I don't know. Eastern Time. So 7:00 Eastern Time. And this free masterclass will help you turn your recipes into revenue one order at a time. This masterclass is designed to help culinary entrepreneurs turn their passion into profit. So if this is you, be sure to register. I will definitely leave a link in the description. And just really quickly, I'll tell you what you can expect in this masterclass. I'll go over the business behind the business. Sometimes, as a side hustle, whatever it is. So let me just be clear. Whatever culinary business you got going on, whether it's meal prep, catering, private chef, whatever it is that you do, you want to make sure that you set it up for success. I see a lot of businesses that, and I don't blame them because you don't know what you don't know, but I'm here to let you know what you need to do. Certain things that I've seen or people that I've come in contact with, I'm like, well, why'd you do that? I've had people who have paid for help and I'm still giving it the side eye. So I'll definitely go over that. We go over how to price your items. Sometimes we don't make money in our businesses because we don't know how to price correctly. And that's a big, big thing. So pricing is important. And make sure you want to actually sell stuff that is going to make a profit, right? Just because you like it, let's make sure it's a profitable item. I will also go over how to establish or figure out what you should be selling. I like to call it your food superstar. So we'll go over how to discover your food superstar, as well as the tech and tools that you need to help your business scale, right? That allow you to run your business more efficiently. Now, that's a big thing because I had no idea about tech, and I know some people run away from tech, but I got you covered. Also, packaging. We'll talk a little bit about packaging, and this masterclass will be about 60 to 75 minutes, give or take. So it's going to be a lot of information packed in a short amount of time. And again, I will leave the information in the description box, so be sure to register if you're interested. If you're not a cook and you cook for all the events, for free, right? I'm letting you know you can definitely get paid for it. So be sure to register for the Kitchen to Commerce Masterclass. And that's it for me, guys. That's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. As always, be sure to follow us, leave us a review. Would love to hear a review from you guys. Share this podcast. Let people know what they need to know. So definitely share with a friend. If you have any questions for me, culinary related, even if you register for this masterclass, if you have a question, you can DM me at Chef Sahira Speaks on all platforms or kneadtoknowpod on Instagram as well. As always, guys, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in my next episode.
You need to know what to do with that dough. Let the chef show you. You need to know what to do with that dough.